Hi guys. So, here are the questions for this week. So instead of addressing specific questions, I'm going to go over two general ideas that I think you should all kind of get the hang of, at least, so we can begin to work on more complicated things. So, the first concept is, what do you do when you have a new scale that you're learning? How do you begin to make music with it? How do you start making something that's not just playing it up and down? And there are some ideas for that you can use. They're really simple and that are going to help a lot. The main one for hearing it is you can number the notes. As in, if you have a 7-note scale, you can number starting from the root as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so forth. If you have a pentatonic scale, you would only have 5. But most regular scales have 7 notes in them. So you can name that and sing it such as, that's my root, and I'm playing a major scale from there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I can have that. And one idea that you can do once you get a little bit comfortable with that is you can start playing any of the notes that isn't 1 and going back to 1. So you can go to a low 1 or to a high 1, such as this. So, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 6, 1, 7, 1, 1, 1. So there I went to a low 1. So I'm hearing everything against that 1 note. You could also have a drone going. And then play on top of it. But that is more for starting to improvise kind of thing. But for hearing the scale in and of itself, you could do that. So play any of the notes, whichever of the numbers it happens to be, and go back to either a low 1 or a high 1. So that's an idea. You also have the drone. That's more for like starting to find out melodies and stuff like that. And that brings us to a little bit of more of the improvisation side of things. And when you start getting into that, I suggest that if you have a 7-note scale, such as major, minor, melodic minor, most common 7-note scales, the odd numbers represent the notes in the chord. So if you emphasize those tones, you're gonna get the sound of the scale is supposed to be played over. So for example, let's take another scale. I started here, and I'm gonna build, I don't know, a Lydian dominant scale, for example. Weird scale for most, but very common in jazz. So, what are the notes that are my 1, 3, 5, and 7? That's my 3. That's my 5. So 1, 3, 5. That's my 7. So my arpeggio would be. And if you emphasize those notes and not really the even notes, the 2, the 4, and the 6, you're going to get the sound of the chord, and everything's going to sound more, it's going to make a little bit more sense, hopefully. and you can move around one or a number of those notes, especially on beats 1 and 3, but we can get over that in the coming weeks. So that's an idea. When you begin improvising with those things, so you feel a little bit more comfortable with the sound of the scale. It doesn't sound so weird anymore. I suggest you start with fewer notes than the entire scale to improvise, because that's going to help a lot with your phrasing. So get comfortable with, say, 3 or 4 notes instead of all 7, or an entire fingering on a guitar or on a keyboard, or whichever instrument you have to play, because it's easy to get carried away and just play it up and down, and it's not that's not very musical at the end of the day. So there's that. So we got the arpeggio, we got the playing few notes. Another idea is to play with articulation. So you can play some of the notes a little bit louder or softer than the other notes. So if you played it one note louder than the others, that's called an accent. And if you played it softer, you could think like a whisper, something like that. That would be like a ghost note, we would call that. And that's a really, really great idea. You can also use all kinds of articulation in the sense of technical things. For example, on the guitar, you could hammer it, you could pull off to a note, you could bend to it, you could slide into it, and still you would be using so few notes, but everything will be sounding a little bit more musical, and that's a part of phrasing. And also, don't be afraid to use repetition, especially you can repeat notes in and of themselves. You don't have to change notes every time you play. This is especially true with guitar players. We try to change notes every time, and it's not necessary. So I hope that helps, and I'll see you guys next week. See ya.